BVP Beaver Falls, 1460 WMBA Ambridge, and also on 99.3 FM.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
The following program is for mature and logical audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Play YMCA. Go ahead. Let's go. Nice and loud.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Thinking Logically. It's your host, Joseph Anthony Corsai. Quite a lot has happened since our last, at least live show. I feel like we always say that, but since our last show, we saw two B-2 bombers drop bombs on Iranian nuclear facilities. Trump dropped an F-bomb to the cameras. What else have we seen since our last show? 24 years after 9/11, New York City has chosen a radical Muslim extremist that has only been a citizen for about half a decade as its mayoral candidate. And he's now the hands-down favorite to win in the fall. So that's interesting. We'll get to him later.
He's not even a decade. He's like 7 years. This is insane, Joe.
It's quick. It comes up on you quick. What else did we see? Apparently Diddy didn't do it. Puff Diddler. He had some of the most serious charges dropped this week, including, I think, the human trafficking. I don't know if you guys watch podcasts, if you're listening, but Bernie Sanders went on Joe Rogan, and that was interesting. Also, social media sensation turned insane person, the Liver King. He traveled to Texas to try to fight Joe Rogan and was arrested, the Liver King. Apparently that No Kings protest was a serious thing. No Liver Kings, whether it be Trump or the Liver King. Oh, and Kamala Harris. Kamala, whatever we call her. I forget. Honestly, I can't even remember. It's been so long. Remember her? She may be running for governor of California this election cycle. We're going to talk about, I think, all of this and much, much more. But first, Ryan, how have you been? I guess.
I've been doing well, Joe. And, you know, I made the point to say to you, it's a different world just since the last time we've talked. I can't believe the amount of news that's happening in this world right now.
The news or fake news?
Yeah, really.
And that's a good segue because that's our first topic. The Iran, in the missile strike we saw on Iran over the weekend. And in case you've been living under a rock or in a coma, Trump bombed 3 nuclear sites, facilities, whatever you want to call them, in Iran last weekend. However, a district federal judge has overturned the bombings. This thing on, dead. It was a joke. Apparently no one got that. I'm kidding. Again, though, just how funny is it that a district judge can just overturn about anything that Trump does? But let's get back to Iran and Trump, and even what we saw from Pete Hegseth and General Kane this morning at a press conference. So our media is doing a disservice to this country, and that's only 2 decades removed from the lies about WMDs and what did that result in? Thousands of our sons and daughters going to war and dying in the Middle East. I don't know if they want that again. I don't know if they want boots on the ground in Iran, but they're not doing honest reporting, our media. They're not doing honest reporting on what happened last weekend. They want to discredit the successful U.S. strike on Iran's nuclear sites. So basically what happened was an individual in the Pentagon, once again, a leaker, we'll call them, because that's what they are. They leaked top secret intel on the Fort Al plant, and it was leaked, I think, to the AP, the New York Times, everyone, Congress, in the media, the Democrats, the neocons. They're now using this leak to convince everyone that Trump's wrong about what happened over the weekend in Iran with the bombings. So they started out saying that there was no destruction with these facilities, the place is still operational. And then what do we see next, audience? What do we hear next? We heard from Israeli intelligence. They confirmed the destruction. And would you trust them? I mean, they have the most skin in the game. But then what? Then Trump out and said, Iran also confirms the destruction. Tulsi Gabbard came out and said the intelligence is saying it was completely destroyed. then long and behold, we learned, well, how do I know this? We learned that it was actually Israeli spies that were able to sneak into Iran and go to that nuclear site or plant. And they found out that, yes, in fact, it was destroyed. Again, Israel spies on the ground. So does our media, and CNN, they all know more than the Department of Defense or Israeli intelligence? Amazing. The media just trusted whatever a low-level leaker said. This is from the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. She came out on social media, actually, and said this. This alleged assessment is flat out wrong and was classified as top secret, but was still leaked to CNN by an anonymous low-level loser in the intelligence community. The leaking of this alleged assessment is a clear attempt to demean President Trump and discredit the brave fighter pilots who conducted a perfectly executed mission to obliterate Iran's nuclear program. Everyone knows what happens when you drop 14,300-pound bombs, 30,000-pound bombs perfectly on their targets. But again, audience, I can't understand it. For some reason, our media just went with this leaker instead of our intelligence sources or Israel's intelligence or even what Iran was saying. Or, and I know they hate him, but President Trump. So why did CNN, the New York Times, and more, why did they push a leaker story that said that the nuclear enrichment plants, they're going to be operational again very soon, that this only delayed it a few weeks, months? And again, how did a leaker know that the facilities weren't destroyed? Makes no sense. Trump, because remember, again, before this attack, we were told that Iran was like a couple years away from getting a weapon. Then the attack happened, and now the media said, well, they're still only a few months away from getting a weapon. How does that make any sense? It doesn't. So either CNN was wrong at the beginning or they were wrong at the end, or all around wrong. Could be all of it. CNN, for that matter. So Trump told everyone that Israel, their Atomic Energy Commission, obliterated. They said the sites were obliterated. And then he had Iran confirm, again, the 3 sites obliterated. He kept on using that word, obliterated. Who did CNN have on the ground in the rubble to confirm and say, hey, this facility is still operational? Were they standing next to the Israeli spies that were there? So the CNN story, audience, guess who the person was at CNN that wrote the story that Iran is still, after these attacks, only a few months away from a nuclear weapon? I mean, you may not recognize their name, but you'll recognize their work. Or should I say their lies? The reporter, this lady, she also wrote the fake news story claiming that the Hunter Biden laptop was disinformation. Remember that one, audience, from 2020, October? And this woman is none other than Natasha Bertrand. So now Trump is calling for her firing. He said Natasha Bertrand should be fired from CNN. Like this is literally what he posted on social media, and this is why I love Trump. I watched her for 3 days doing fake news. She should be immediately reprimanded and then thrown out like a dog. He goes on. She lied on the laptop from hell story, and now she lied on the nuclear side story, attempting to destroy our Patriot pilot by making them look bad, when in fact they did a great job and it paid her. Total obliteration. She should not be allowed to work at fake news CNN. It's people like her that destroy the reputation of a once great network. Her slant was so obviously negative. Besides, she doesn't have what it takes to be an on-camera correspondent. Not even close. Fire Natasha. He's hilarious. But what about the leaker? Well, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has announced that the Pentagon has launched an investigation alongside with the FBI into leaks surrounding a classified report on the effectiveness of last weekend's strikes against Iran. So what did he say here? Information from the report is believed to have been provided to several media outlets, including CNN, Fox, NBC, and the New York Times, who all published articles containing references to the classified report. That's again from Pete Hegseth. This takes us to Pete Hegseth's press conference today. So during the press conference, General Dan, awesome nickname, Dan Raisin Kane, demonstrated how the GBU-57 MOPs work. That's the bunker buster bombs, whatever they are. So he says, unlike a normal surface bomb, you won't see an impact crater because they're designed to deeply bury and then function. All 6 weapons at each vent at Fort Al went exactly where they were intended to go. Well, there's your answers on why there was no impact crater, CNN. All you had to do is ask the Joint Chiefs. What else? The media this morning, they had the nerve to ask Pete Hegseth, quote, why not acknowledge female pilots that participated? Ryan, just play the audio of Pete's amazing response to the dumbest question ever.
Why not acknowledge the female pilots that also participated in this mission? The early messages that you sent out only congratulated the boys.
So what I say is something like our boys and bombers. See, this is the kind of thing the press does, right? Of course, the chairman mentioned a female bomber pilot. That's fantastic. She's fantastic. She's a hero. I want more female bomber pilots. I hope the men and women of our country sign up to do such brave and audacious things. But when you spin it as, because I say our boys and bombers as a common phrase, I'll keep saying things like that, whether they're men or women. I'm very proud of that female pilot, just like I'm very proud of those male pilots. And I don't care if it's a male or a female in that cockpit, and the American people don't care. But it's the obsession with race and gender in this department that's changed priorities. We don't do that anymore. We don't play your little game.
I'm surprised he had the balls to use the term cockpit in 2025. Remember we wanted to get rid of that word, cockpit?
Yeah, that's right.
I just can't. After an hour and some long press conference, it was very, very informative, very well thought out. They had pictures, videos, they explained everything. After all that, this is the question that was asked. What a joke. Should we have put special focus on the one single individual female pilot? Is that what we do? Ryan, did you ever take a language class in high school?
I did.
Spanish.
Correct, yes.
Okay, so if I say them, hombre, there's certain words that are just generalized as male.
Right.
So the boys came back. So the boys and one female came back from destroying the bunkers. It's so stupid. I don't get it. Let's move on. Let's move on to the 900 pounds of, quote, did you see this one? Potentially enriched uranium that went missing. So Pete Hegseth was asked about that as well this morning, and he didn't give a direct answer, but his answer was comical. Play that audio next, please.
Do you have certainty that all the highly enriched uranium was inside the Fordo mountain, or some of it, because there were satellite photos that showed more than a dozen trucks there 2 days in advance? Are you certain none of that highly enriched uranium was moved?
Of course, we're watching every single aspect, but Jennifer, you've been about the worst. The one who misrepresents the most intentionally.
She's from Fox News, too, so, I mean, but that was a wild response considering this was one of the few legitimate questions. It is a legitimate question, but let's think about this. If the vehicles were seen, which clearly they were because they had to be watching it before they bombed it, who would think surveillance would not monitor activity around the bunker and watch the trucks where they're going after? If it was moved, the U.S. military or the Department of someone knows when and where. What's interesting though is that if there are ways to track where this missing uranium came from if it is ever found. I think you have to test. We said this before. If there's ever a nuclear strike, test the isotopes. So maybe it went missing. Maybe it went missing for a reason. I don't know. But let's listen to some hypocrisy from CNN regarding the reporting on Iran and its nuclear facilities last week. Let's pivot to this. So this audio is from Maze Moore on X, and it's a clip from Aaron Burnett on June 19th reporting on the Iran nuclear situation, what was going on, versus her reporting on June 24th, which is simply 5 days later. Ryan, play that audio, please.
This timeline of Iran being a few weeks away from a nuclear bomb is in direct contradiction to CNN's reporting. According to U.S. intelligence assessments, Iran is 3 years away from being able to produce a nuclear weapon if they wanted to. So the facts on Iran getting a nuclear weapon do not bear out the claim at the heart of what has put the world on the verge of world war. It only set back the Iranian nuclear program by months. We got to call it like it is. It's a big deal.
So first of all, how would she or CNN know something Iran does in secrecy? June 19th. Iran's 3 years away from a nuclear bomb. There's no reason to attack them. And then Trump does attack them, and they're saying that it didn't destroy the facility, and that Iran's now a few months away from a nuclear bomb. How does that make sense to me, CNN, Aaron Burnett, that gets paid 7 digits a year? Please. People are idiots. Why does anyone listen to them? I don't know. But if RFK Jr. ever gets funding or the pharmaceutical commercials taken away, CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News, they are done. They're done. Who else can we go after? Oh, CNN's Brian Stelter. So what he was doing on television, well, it shouldn't surprise anyone if you know fat Brian Stelter. He said, quote, CNN did not report that this mission was a failure. We just didn't know all the facts yet. Well, then why don't you report anything at all? Your whole network, you thought you knew everything. You thought you knew everything for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, and you got everything wrong. From the Russiagate to COVID to this. And you won't stop now, will you? They're obsessed with this Iran nuclear facilities all of a sudden. Oh, here's a good one. Listen to this clip from Jake Tapper, which is, it's rich. Hearing this after 4 years of him not covering Biden, but covering for Biden. Play the Jake Tapper audio, please.
Asking questions is literally our job. Demanding facts and answers instead of just taking a president's word for it.
Ryan, I want to throw this thermos through the window after hearing that. This is the guy that wrote a book that completely didn't pay attention to Biden drooling and falling up steps, down steps, getting lost in the White House, not knowing how to speak or talk. And now this. Now he says this. I don't get it. Then there's Senator John Fetterman. Who is this guy? This is what he posted on X. To those who are unimpressed or borderline gloating on a leak, Operation Midnight Hammer worked. I've been calling for and fully supported those strikes, and it made the world safer. It should transcend partisan politics. That's from John Fetterman. That's wild and crazy. And Ryan, I said this to you last week because we didn't have a show on Monday. Operation Midnight Hammer.
Yes.
That was the name of the operation. And I said, wow, Operation Midnight Hammer. And it confused me because was that the thing with Paul Pelosi and what happened with the hammer with that guy at midnight where, the police open the door and it's midnight and there's a guy with a hammer attacking the...
If it's not, it should be.
Fresh ice is in that cup and I'll never get over that. I could hear it clinking around. So the Ayatollah of Iran, I guess he's not been seen in person. I think he put out a video today in nearly a week, and that's from the New York Times. So that begs the question. Obviously, he's not dead. He put out a video today. But if something would happen with him, would that lead to a regime change? Is there going to be a regime change in Iran? And if there is, it would be interesting to see, hey, who's going to recognize this new government in Iran? Would Trump? Probably. He would probably catch the most flack for it. Would Russia? It'd be something if Putin would recognize a new government in Iran. With China, that would be the most interesting. Remember they were talking about shutting the Strait of Hormuz? I wonder if China had a role in that. If China was in Iran's ear telling him to close the Strait of Hormuz, because you might not know this, China built a railway from Iran basically into China. So China doesn't need the Strait of Hormuz. That would only screw other nations over. So I wonder if China would recognize the new government in Iran. If they didn't, that would be very interesting. Ukraine, would they recognize a new government in Iran? Would it even matter at this point? Speaking of Ukraine, Zelensky, he has to be mad the focus isn't on him right now. Do you see he wore a suit for the first time at the NATO? What do they have it? I can't remember where they had it. Trump was there.
Yes.
He wore a suit for the first time. I honestly, I can't remember the last time I saw him wearing a suit.
I saw the picture. I was like, is this real? Does he really have a suit on?
He must want that bag. He must want that bag from Trump. That's like when when you tell a woman to put on high heels.
Yeah.
You're going to go out and take him out shopping. Yeah. I think that's what was going on. I think that's what's going on there. All right, before we take a break, I keep on seeing this meme on social media. It has a giant nuclear explosion in the background. And it reads like this. It has 3 pictures of 3 different individuals. First one's Hillary Clinton. And it says, remember how we got here. Hillary Clinton supplied Iran with uranium to enrich their nuclear program. Hey, maybe that was the uranium that went missing, the 900 pounds. Which, by the way, 900 pounds could literally fit in a 55-barrel 55-gallon jug, just to be clear. But it says that. Then it moves down to Barack Obama, and it says Barack Obama has his picture, says gave Iran $1.7 billion that they used to fund their nuclear program. And then it goes to Joe Biden, who just looks confused. Joe Biden unfroze over $16 billion of funds for Iran. So don't even blame this on Trump. And good points made, right, Ryan?
Yeah. One of the things that does baffle me before we do go to break is, just constantly the death to America, death to America, death to Israel. You hear this?
They have Death to America Day.
And, Democrat leaders, they tend to continue to send pallets full of cash, and as you're saying, unfreezing these funds. Where's what's being missed? What's missing here, Joe? Why do the leaders not see that these people were continuously for decades now, as long as I've noticed, they've been chanting death to America? And then the left leaders come in and they just continue to pour money into Iran. I don't get what we're missing. How is this even?
What are we missing? Well, remember when Josh Shapiro and Zelensky thought it was cool to campaign and sign artillery shells?
Yeah.
But now Trump can't drop any bombs on a country that is supposedly about to get a nuclear weapon. The Democrats don't want you to have a gun, but they're fine. They're fine with Iran possibly getting a nuclear weapon only because Trump's in office.
And they're going to give them pallets of cash to make sure that they can do this. It's unbelievable what's going on.
I just the CNN narrative. They weren't gonna have a nuclear weapon for 3 years. That was like last week, and then Trump bombs the facilities, and now they're saying that the nuclear facility can be up and running again in a few months.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know.
And if you've been following this like you do, and a lot of people do, Joe, I mean, go all the way back to 9/11. Who was the axis of evil? It was Iran, Iraq, and North Korea. And there were issues with concerned about Iran and nuclear weapons back then. That's 25 years ago. So there's always been issues with Iran and nuclear weapons. Yet again, the left.
You know what? Maybe they can't use this as like a fear-mongering thing anymore, the nuclear war, and that's why they're mad, because they can't use this to launder money through fear of Iran through nuclear war. I'm interested to see how Israel handle this going forward, knowing they can no longer be destroyed by nuclear weapons from Iran. It's very interesting.
Very interesting.
It's kind of like how Trump kind of checkmated Israel at the same time here.
Yes.
You got to give him credit.
This was a game changer. What's happened over the past week, in my opinion, and again, I don't follow like you do, but this seems like it was a game changer, what just happened.
Yeah.
A big time game changer.
Yeah. Let me read one more tweet before we move to a break. This is from Wall Street Mav. Bill Clinton, we are determined to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. He said that in 1995. George W. Bush, Iran must not be allowed to develop nuclear weapons, period. That was in 2006. Barack Obama, I have stated that Iran will never be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon. That was in 2015. Joe Biden in 2022, we will not allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon. And then Donald Trump, literally last week, Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Thank you for your attention to this matter. But they're crying over that for some reason, and they're saying, no, it's not obliterated. All right, we got to take a break, though. When we return, we're going to talk about this, what happened in New York City? A radical Muslim being he's going to be the next mayor. We'll talk about when we return to Thinking Logically here on 99.3 FM WBVP.
As far back as I could remember,
it's Joe again from Thinking Logically, here to tell you about one of my favorite clothing items, the MyPillow hoodie. Two things I love the most about this hoodie are how it fits and how it feels. This hoodie is extremely roomy, and its terry cloth material makes it lighter than any other hoodie I own. Use promo code LOGIC to maximize your savings. The MyPillow hoodie. Get yours today. It's Joe Corsi here from Thinking Logically to tell you about Beaver County's #1 realtor, Mark Galla with RE/MAX Select Realty. With over 10 years experience, Mark knows all the ins and outs of the real estate business, so whether you're looking to rent, buy, sell, or swap your house, you can rely on Mark to take the hassle out. Mark Galla of RE/MAX Select Realty, going above and beyond.
Beaver County Boom is turning 15 on June 28th, and Push Beaver County is celebrating by presenting an encore of Zambelli International's gold medal winning Cosmic Connection show. The 15th annual Beaver County Boom is presented by Visit Beaver County. Air Heritage's vintage C-47 military airplane, the Luck of the Irish, will fly over along with skydivers, and it will all be followed up by the star of the show, Beaver County Boom at 9:45 p.m. All the action takes place over the Ohio River between Monaca and Rochester. Bring your radio along or listen on your smart device to the Clearview Federal Credit Union live broadcast on Beaver County Radio beginning at 6. Title presenter sponsor of Beaver County Boom is Visit Beaver County. Diamond sponsors include Clearview Federal Credit Union and the Davis Foundation. Media partners include Beaver County Radio, the Beaver County Chamber of Commerce, and Simonic Creative, among others. Don't miss Beaver County Boom, Saturday, June 28th.
Growth starts with community, and Clearview Federal Credit Union is thrilled to continue growing with you. We're now proud to serve Beaver County with 5 convenient financial centers throughout the area. Clearview is here to help you build a stronger financial future with personalized solutions and a passion for supporting our communities every step of the way. Learn more about how you can support your goals at clearviewfcu.org/new-view. Clearview, clearly different.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
Welcome back to Thinking Logically here on 99.3 FM WBVP, where I'm proud to announce we have a new sponsor, and that sponsor is His Place. Yes, His Place, where community, wellness, and purpose come together. So His Place is an event venue built in 1907. It was formerly a church. His Place is now a beautifully restored, veteran-led venue, and it's more than just a building. It's a movement for healing, hope, and health. So if you're looking for the ideal place to host your next event, why not His Place at 908 Market Street in Bridgewater. They have everything you need for hosting corporate events, weddings, showers, birthdays, you name it. Call 878-201-3098. That's again, 878-201-3098 and book your date today. That's His Place at 908 Market Street in Bridgewater. And check out their online too, Ryan. They can accommodate like 180 people at this place, or as few as like 40 or 60 if you want to have a small birthday, fantasy football draft, anything. His Place in Bridgewater.
Nice. Have to check it out.
Yes. And it's Bridgewater for Beaver County Boom. Hey.
You can't be any closer.
No. But let's move on. It is June. You know what that means, Ryan. Pride Month still. So.
It is still Pride Month.
You know
yes.
where the only place I've seen Pride Month actually? Baseball stadiums in baseball.
And you did. You just went to a game last week. So
I did.
How was that?
Terrible. They lost. So it cost me a decent amount of money. So I'm kind of guy that pays $35 for the tickets and then like $500 for the bet. It cost me $535. Frazier duffed the ground ball in the first inning. That was the difference in the game because they lost by 1. Like as if the outfit was the rough at Oakmont. He just got a bad hop. Anil Cruz luckily showed up to back him up. But anyway, we're giving away. But yeah, it was free hat night, and I guess the free hat made up for everything, all the money that Bob Nutting didn't spend on players this year. So, just I'd rather be dipped in be flayed in front of my entire family and then dipped in boiling hand sanitizer, I think, than go to another Pirate game. In that heat, at least.
Joe, and it's gotten so bad that, after 3 decades of this kind of performance, with the exception of a couple seasons, this is what you go to the ball game for anymore. You just go to sit there and enjoy yourself in the stands, the people around you, enjoy some food. It's not about baseball for the sake of your team being a good team. If you love baseball, it's a different story. But you go to the game, it isn't about rooting on your team to do the best they can. It really has just became a summertime leisure activity for most people, just to get out to the stadium. That's what it's about, getting out to the stadium.
And now it's about gay pride. We're gonna get to the Cardinals, what happened at their game that I watched in a second. But here's a pride story. So former Nickelodeon star JoJo Siwa says she felt pressure to come out as lesbian as a minor. Siwa made the comments as she opened up about her new relationship with a man. She's no longer a lesbian, I guess, and she said she felt pressure from the LGBTQ community, according to UMag. Quote, from people I know, from partners I've had, you just get put in this role where you feel like because you now have said, oh, I'm a lesbian, that you have to be a lesbian. And the truth is, sexuality is fluid. In a weird way, I think the pressure came a little bit from inside the LGBTQ plus community at times. So Siwa has since broken up with her girlfriend and is now in a relationship with a male. It's got to be fun for the male. Anyway, she says the relationship has been, quote, been a beautiful development, a beautiful connection, and I'm absolutely head over heels for him, and he's just the same. It just sounds like she's crazy. I'm sorry. So have fun dating her. Sounds like she might be a little bit insane. So,
Joe, what's the deal? And I saw something the other day. I'm seeing these posts on X. There's an abundance of famous people whose children are just totally transed out. I don't know if they've had the change or not, but they look, you know.
Are you talking about Snoop Dogg, Magic Johnson?
Yes.
we could go on and on.
There was a
weird.
half dozen that I seen in the particular.
Dwayne Wade?
Right. Why does all their kids, I guess.
Angelina Jolie.
She was on there. Why all these famous? What am I missing?
Maybe it's something they're putting in the water. It ain't fluoride like RFK said. I don't know.
And these kids are obviously too young to make their own decisions.
You know what it could be? I'm not Dr. Rachel Levin. I'm not a child psychologist, but you know what it could be? Children are very impressionable. And whenever you introduce them to things like this at a young age, it affects them. Take, for instance, me. I grew up on mob movies.
Yeah.
What am I the mojo? What do I relate everything to?
You love your mob movies.
What if I grew up watching Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything? What's the movie with Wesley Snipes about the cross-dressers? Please Google it. You don't see a lot of movies, and you should have never saw that movie. Or movies like that about like I'd be different.
Yeah.
That's why I'm
absolutely
so glad we grew up when we grew up. It's a lot harder.
And you know that it's such on the head, because Joe, these kids are way too young to even know what this stuff is if it's not put into their head.
Less of a chance dying on a beach in Normandy, more of a chance getting turned out, if you know what I mean by getting turned out in 2025. Scary.
Yes.
Speaking of getting turned out, this is an amazing story piggybacking off Pride Month. From Reuters. You ready for this headline? 4 gay men in Africa told Reuters they tested positive for HIV since President Trump ordered cuts to a program that funded deliveries of a drug that curbs sexual transmission of the virus. How is this Donald Trump's fault? How about not sodomizing each other? Have they tried that? Have they tried that for a little bit? Why should the American taxpayer be responsible for people on another continent doing anal? They can't resist condomless stuff like that just for a little bit? Just try it out and see if it works? Do an experiment maybe?
How about a little self-control instead of just doing whatever you want and blaming somebody else?
Well, no, that being Donald Trump's fault. Trump causing AIDS in the gay community in Africa because he cut money. God forbid. Have Soros pay for the money then. Amazing that USAID was single-handedly starving off AIDS in Africa. All right. From that to Disability Pride Night. What do you think, Ryan? St. Louis Cardinals. So...
I didn't see this when it played out, but you did. I can't wait to hear about it.
Just play the audio, and we'll just guide the audience through it.
Let's take home a Cardinals cap featuring the Disability Pride flag and Cardinals in Braille. Details at cardinals.com/theme.
So that's it. I think this dude just quits announcing. You can see this is the longest awkwardest silence
Imagine
ever.
the faces that are being made at one another in this booth.
You can hear the balls and strikes. Listen. he's just not announcing balls and strikes. Did they fire him mid-pitch?
Jeez.
Also, Disability Pride Month. What's that all about? Is it pride in disability or pride in gayness?
The time is still going, Joe, where he hasn't said anything yet.
It's about a minute.
Leave that one.
Wow.
Well, remember the dude from, what was it, the Athletics? Went to the Negro League Museums and accidentally, when he was saying Negro League Museums, dropped the N-bomb, which we'll get to later. Apparently happens all the time to Jamal Bowman. We'll get to that later in the show. He got fired. They didn't even get another chance. It was an honest mistake. I think he just stuttered while he said it, and it just came out the wrong way.
Yeah.
He's gone. But yeah, Pride Night's at baseball game, and disability, we can't even say, but it wasn't flag, apparently.
Wow, I did not catch that.
Okay, speaking of Pride Nights, it baffles me how the LGBTQ community in New York, where the LGBT movement kind of started, New York, California, how they voted for a Sharia law, basically, in New York City. In case you missed it, we featured this guy on the show before. New York State Assemblyman and Democratic Socialist Zohran, I don't even know how you say his name. He declared victory in the New York City Democratic mayoral primary. And audience, since about 80% of New York City is Democrat, we're just going to spend the rest of the show assuming he wins the general election this fall. So I know that he's not the mayor yet, but I'm just assuming he's going to beat Eric Adams, who turned a Republican a few months ago. So, excuse me as I get the hiccups here. A Muslim mayor they elected of New York 2 decades after 9/11. So someone just needs to say it. Everyone's afraid of being called a racist in Iowa. Forget the Muslim aspect for a second. What's worse is this guy's a socialist. He's only been a citizen for 7 years. And also, he was born in Uganda. He doesn't even speak English. He speaks so many other languages. And he has ties, I think, to Iran. Am I the only one bothered by this? I'm not a racist, but I just need to point out real quick, and then we'll take the caller. New York City was 75% white 50 years ago. It's less than half that now. And they're about to elect a mayor that's only been a citizen for 7 years and wants to bring in more illegals. That's got to be all liberal white women. All right, we got a caller. Jim, go ahead. You're on Thinking Logically.
Yeah, you know what? We're doing well because a long time ago, 3 or 4 years ago, they were saying the population replacement plan, we were going to have 40%, 60% Islam, and 40% Spanish.
Well, they're not that far off, are they? Especially in New York.
Still there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, they were saying that the population of the United States was going to be 60% Muslim and 40% Spanish.
So according to plan,
I had one of these long, stupid calls with Metro over customer service, and this one young Filipino kid who's only been a supervisor for a year, we got into this fun conversation for a while, and there was a lot of noise going on in the background. He said, "Sorry about the noise. We're celebrating Pride Month." And I said, "Okay." And I asked him, I said, "How much Jesus you got in your life?" and he says, "Oh, sort of." And I said, "Well, you do know what that rainbow is about, don't you?" And he says, "No." I said, "Well, it was about when the flood was happening in the book of Genesis." And I said that God provided Noah a rainbow to assure him that the rain was over with and it wasn't ever going to happen again.
Well, so you brought up I just have to comment. So the guys from the Philippines are a very Christian, very Christ-like nation, but at the same time, there also are a lot of trannies in the Philippines. So it's kind of like you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what you're going to get there with the Filipinos, I guess, right?
No, you don't. And I've always had a sort of a love affair with the Philippines because I am an artist, and it's loaded full of artists and craftsmen and weavers and sewing machine operators and stuff. And who knows? You might have to fight the tariffs, but I would feel right at home there because the only thing I've not done is have to run barefooted away from running lava out of a volcano. But I was raised in Central Florida, so I know all about palm trees, humidities, and rattlesnakes.
Oh, I hear it's beautiful there. Absolutely beautiful. Ravaged by World War II, but I hear it is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Manila, the island of Luzon. That's what happens.
I mean, that's what the only thing they would have to fear. Because I always ask them that question. I always say, "Have you ever had to run from volcano lava?"
That is wild. You actually been to the Philippines?
No, I would like to. I would leave in 1 second to do it. I know some people that have married some Filipino girls, but the problem is they all want to come to America, and they don't realize that when they come to America, they are going to inherit cancer. They are going to inherit vascular disease. They are going to inherit an attitude. They're going to become very, very, very no more. They're not going to have their diet of fish and rice no more. They're going to leave their tradition behind and become Americanized, and it will be very, very sad.
But they still want to come here because the American dream to them is kind of a dream when you put it like that way. You come here expecting the greatest country on earth, and the people eat crap. Like they're literally getting fed better from the ocean there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, I like playing Chef Tell. And I ride bikes like Lance Armstrong. I've got probably 75,000, 80,000 miles, and I can climb all your hills here besides Stephen Hill, and I'm working on Hospital Hill now. And I ride a tour bike that is not like a real Lance Armstrong bike, but anytime they want to get a team around here and you want to put some bets on there, you can put your money on me because I know how to do the asphalt.
Can you beat Joe Biden in a race on his bicycle?
I would like to.
Well, now that's where they'll get you. That's where they'll get you. You think you're going against old Joe Biden. They'll have that clone of the robot Joe Biden with the auto pen they've had for the past 4 years coming. He'll be doing he'll be like Lance Armstrong.
Yeah, but Lance Armstrong, if you want to do some serious reading, seriously, Lance Armstrong got slammed by the media like Donald Trump because those people who were slamming him, they did not review the past. And the review the past would go to the Olympics in the 1970s and the 80s when the Yugoslavians, when the Czechoslovakians, when the Ukrainians, the Russians, and the Polish people were bringing in gold and bronze by the wheelbarrowfuls. And they were eating something that was similar to Siberian ginseng, which was an adaptogenic substance, and it was causing them to be able to store every last cubic square centimeter of oxygen in their blood. And he started getting busted when he was saying, "What's up, homie?" when he was traveling uphill and passing people. And he said to the media in these books and stuff that he discovered when he went to the Olympics, him and his post office team, when they first arrived and did good, he realized then that they were the only team that was not doped. And then they got to go to Barcelona. Same thing happened.
I mean,
so they were winning gold, and they were not doped. So I have big knuckles against the number one bicycle rider.
Interesting. Very interesting. I do have one question, though, before I let you go. So we were talking about New York City and the election that happened there. Just out of curiosity, if you were a Democrat in New York City, who would you have voted for? Cuomo, or would you have voted for this Democrat socialist?
I wouldn't have voted for none of them. I would have gone fishing that day with a magnet and seen how many guns I could pull up out of their river from past unfinished business that the Democratic attorneys just threw aside that they couldn't figure it out, and the bad guys tossed all their rivers in the gun. They tossed their guns in the river, and I'd be finding them and handing them back to them so they can finish their case.
That's a good answer, Jim. Hey, thank you very much for your call.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for talking to me. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jim. I only asked the question because if you think about it, Como would have been no better. He's right. They all suck. But I guess at least this Zohan dude didn't kill any grandmothers by leaving them in nursing homes with COVID patients. He didn't kill anyone yet, I guess you could say. Give him time. Give him time. Let's go over some of these classic quotes, though, from this guy that won the Democrat primary. Take his victory speech the other night where he said this, and I quote, "We will reject Trump's fascism and stop ICE agents from deporting our neighbors and to make New York City a model for the Democrat Party." Huh. Wow. Imagine that. California versus New York City as the model for the Democrat Party. That'll be fun to watch over the next couple months and years. Another quote here. "We will root out bigotry across New York City with an 800% increase in funding for hate crime prevention." 800%. That's 8 times as much money for hate crime prevention. What does that even mean? I could go over this guy's social media posts. Let's go back to 2020. He just became a citizen. He was a citizen for maybe 20 some months. And this is what he posted in December of 2020 on X, Twitter, whatever it was called back then. He says, "End cash bail, decriminalize sex work, legalize marijuana," okay, fine, "permit safe injection sites, restrict solitary confinement, enact elder parole," I guess that's it once you reach a certain age or just out of jail, get out of jail free card, refranchise incarcerated New Yorkers. "We will also introduce new legislation to decriminalize simple drug possession, repeal all mandatory minimum sentences, reduce maximum sentences with retroactive effect, repeal felony bump-up statuses," I don't know what that means, "and repeal sentence enhancements and not cooperate with ICE." This guy is a maniac.
You know, Joe, these all those ideas, it's insane.
Yeah, you think? Hold on, wait. Where's the? This is what else does he want to do? Listen to this one. He wants to make the supermarkets city. I'm serious. City-run supermarkets in New York City. No more bodegas. This is going to be like the shelves of North Korea or the USSR that we would.
Exactly.
okay, we have a sponsor, Shop and Save.
Yes.
St. Barnabas. How much do supermarkets even make? Ask them down the street, Shop and Save. What 2% maybe? What are their margins? And you want government to come in and take over? My dear, think of what would happen. Before we take a break, let me just read a few more interesting posts here. Actually, from social media about this Zofran winning the primary. This is from Matt Walsh. 40% of New York City's population is foreign-born. Not just second and third generation immigrants. Foreign-born. Almost half the city wasn't born in this country. New York City isn't an American city anymore by any reasonable definition of the term. It's a tragedy and a disgrace. And what Matt Walsh is saying here goes really well with this next audio clip. This is the future mayor of New York, who we're just talking about, fighting ICE agents because he wants more illegals in New York City. Play that audio, please, Ryan. I mean, we were talking about Kumo. I got to read this too. This is from Drew Holden. He put out this screenshot of the headline from CNN. CNN Politics headline: Andrew Cuomo. This is from 5 years ago, May 1st of 2020. Andrew Cuomo may be the single most popular politician in America right now. And you could see, remember he had the nipple rings?
Oh, yeah.
What a fall from grace. Andrew Cuomo lost the mayoral primary to a Democrat socialist who wasn't even born in this country. Just got here.
And a few, just real quick, Joe, just to chime in, a few of those things that you were just going off about, all the changes and things that he wants to do. What about the victims of the crimes that these people were committing?
Oh, we don't care about them.
Why, for the party that always cries victim, whenever they put their laws out, they all of a sudden forget about the victims.
Yeah. No, there are no victims. The victims are the people in jail. Those are the real victims, according to Don't Mess with Zofran. Let me read this. Bill Clinton, of course, congratulated him. Congratulations on your victory in yesterday's primary election and a well-run campaign. I'm wishing you much success in November and beyond as you work to bring New Yorkers together to tackle the city's challenges and shape a stronger, fairer future. He must be excited about the sex work. That's what he's excited about, the free sex work that was the decriminalization of the sex work. How funny it'd be if Trump had this guy removed, and he's the first sitting elected official to be arrested, the mayor of New York City. It's been predicted for a while. And this guy's a socialist. That would be a great narrative, and it could be coming in less than a year, and that could kick off the primary season for midterms, having this dude be arrested for all this stuff that he plans on doing. And it also puts presidential candidate AOC in the crosshairs, maybe others, Obama. I don't know. I do know we got to take a break, but when we return, we're going to talk about Bernie Sanders going on Joe Rogan, and Jamal Bowman is back in the news. Stay tuned. Listen to Thinking Logically on 99.3 FM WBVP. It's Joe Corsi here from Thinking Logically to tell you about Beaver County's #1 realtor, Mark Galla with RE/MAX Select Realty. With over 10 years experience, Mark knows all the ins and outs of the real estate business, so whether you're looking to rent, buy, sell, or swap your house, you can rely on Mark to take the hassle out. Mark Galla of RE/MAX Select Realty, going above and beyond. It's Joe again from Thinking Logically, here to tell you about one of my favorite clothing items, the MyPillow hoodie. Two things I love the most about this hoodie are how it fits and how it feels. This hoodie is extremely roomy, and its terry cloth material makes it lighter than any other hoodie I own. Use promo code LOGIC to maximize your savings. The MyPillow hoodie. Get yours today.
Have you ever wanted to work in radio? Well, now is your chance. St. Barnabas Broadcasting is a network of 11 radio stations, and we are looking for account executives to introduce St. Barnabas Broadcasting and digital media to new prospective clients and grow existing ones. Experience in sales is preferred. Interested prospective candidates can apply by sending their resume to fsparks@beavercountyradio.com or by calling 724-444-JOBS.
The NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
Fans are on their feet, waving their hats as the green flag flies.
Heads to Connecticut for the first time.
Trouble turn 3. One truck spins and does a huge slide through the corner. That is Jack Wood. Now he backs the truck into the outside wall.
To Lime Rock Park.
Does he have enough? He's tied up on the draft. Grant Impinger tries to pull out of line. Checkered flag in the air.
It's the Liuna 150.
Tune in to Beaver County Radio 99.3 FM and 1230 WBVP every Monday and Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. for Thinking Logically with Joe Corsai. It is an all-new show that takes a look at the conservative side of politics. Thinking Logically is also presented on the WBVP-WNBA Facebook page and YouTube channel. That's Thinking Logically with Joe Corsai each and every Monday and Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on Beaver County Radio. It's time to wake up, Beaver Valley, with Pastor David Grove from the Church of the Redeemed of Beaver Valley. Tune in to Beaver County Radio this and every Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m. It's time to wake up and turn our hearts back to Jesus Christ. So wake up early this Saturday and tune in to Wake Up Beaver Valley from 9 until 10 a.m. right here on Beaver County Radio.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WNBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WNBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WNBA.
Welcome back to Thinking Logically, brought to you by So Fresh, So Clean Pressure Washing. Remember, whether you need your house washed, driveway clean, patio done, fences, gutters, you name it, call Dave from So Fresh, So Clean Pressure Washing at 724-252-4489. They're fully insured and they have free estimates. So what are you waiting for? Don't be the outcast in your neighborhood with a dirty Decker house. Call Dave from So Fresh, So Clean Pressure Washing today. Okay, so about Bernie Sanders going on Joe Rogan, the account Johnny St. Pete on X summarized the whole hour and a half, hour 45 minutes very effectively. So he said, did Bernie end the interview on Rogan early? He said Joe Rogan did a massive pushback on Bernie when he tried to tie in the founding fathers with Trump attempting to be authoritarian, aka no kings. Bernie tried to say that Trump shouldn't be suing media companies. When Joe Rogan pressed him on exactly why he was suing them, Bernie was playing coy and saying CBS has a long storied history. I know the Des Moines Register pollster, she's reputable, blah, blah, blah. Yet when Joe says you don't think editing an incoherent answer to make a cognate response for Kamala is deceptive, Bernie all of a sudden just kept playing dumb and safe with, well, I don't know all the facts. Joe Rogan did his homework and said in relation to the Seltzer, that was the poll, for those of you that don't know, that came out, the Iowa poll, that having someone winning can discourage turnout. Bernie exposed himself as an absolute liar. Seltzer had Harris winning Iowa by 3. Trump won by 13. Bernie also pretended he didn't know that Stephanopoulos said defamatory things about Trump. Then, once he realized that Joe Rogan is no idiot, he suddenly had to, quote, catch a plane. Funny that Bernie Sanders said he had to catch a plane whenever he's Mr. Green Energy. Anyway, Joe Rogan interviews are usually 3+ hours. This was not even 2. This is why leftists can't do podcast unless it's a farce. And he's right. Again, that's from Johnny St. Pete on X. Okay, so from the woman who can't go on from Joe Rogan to the woman who can't go on Joe Rogan but can run for president and now apparently governor, Kamala Harris is leaning towards entering the California gubernatorial race, according to The Hill. Good. Run. Please. Be my guest. Let's do the P. Diddy trial real quick, Ryan. Did you hear the latest thing? The latest thing that came out of the...
I have not, no.
So Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, whatever you want to call him, he kept his baby oil stash in an apparent humidity-controlled storage.
Oh, jeez.
That just tells you whatever was in those bottles, it wasn't baby oil. It was clearly something else. The baby oil should have been the focus of this trial. And I guess he had some of the charges dropped. Sex trafficking. And I just want to remind our audience that former FBI Director James Comey's daughter is the one prosecuting the case, or at least she's part of it, Maureen Comey. So in June 2024, someone at the DOJ SDNY office also filed a declaration to keep the Epstein files secret. What if I told you it was also Maureen Comey? Funny, because James Comey was just in the other news for 86-47. There was that.
Yeah, that's right.
And the funnest story of the day, Jamal Bowman. He was on, I think it was CNN, MSNBC. I can't remember which outlet he was on, but he made a fool out of himself. He said the reason why heart disease and cancer and obesity and diabetes are bigger in the black community is because, just play the audio, Ryan.
You can't be calm about this. I'm a black man in America. The reason why heart disease...
I'm white, I can't comment.
Listen to what I'm saying. The reason why heart disease and cancer and obesity and diabetes are bigger in the black community is because of the stress we carry from having to deal with being called the N-word directly or indirectly every day.
It's because of the stress we carry from having to deal with being called the N-word, directly or indirectly every day. And you might not know who this guy is. This is the same guy that pulled, he was a former congressman. He was the one that pulled the fire alarm to delay the congressional vote like 2 years ago.
Well, that was him.
He's also, oddly enough, a former high school principal. So just to wrap it all and tie a bow on it, a former high school principal a couple of years ago, while a congressman, pulled a fire alarm and didn't get in trouble. And he said he was confused by the signs, and that's why he pulled the fire alarm. And now you just heard his thoughts on heart disease and cancer. What was this guy like as a principal?
Wow.
I understand being directly called the N-word. How does someone get indirectly called that word? I have no idea. But are we just able to make up things? This is, again, a former congressman.
It comes down to the self-control. I mean, if I stress you out all day, Joe, it comes down to you at the end of the day, whether you're going to go home and drink and beat your wife and kick the dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where does the self-discipline and control come in at?
I have no idea. I don't know. I just indirectly. What does that even mean? Why would you put him on TV? And why did the Democrats just go right from the Democrat machine to CNN, MSNBC, wherever? We'll switch up the tone here a little bit. From Polymarket. Just in, U.S. Director of Federal Housing orders mortgage providers to accept Fartcoin when assessing creditworthiness. I'm not joking around. Do you own any Fartcoin?
I don't own Fartcoin.
Do you own a home, a vacation home, anything?
I do not.
Got to get some Fartcoin.
Got to get the Fartcoin.
Why. All right, one or two more we'll do here. So apparently Democrat Congressman Mark Pocan, he's the Democrat from Wisconsin, in a tweet told White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, who is Jewish, to go back to 1930s Germany. Let me read. So Stephen Miller must have posted, what did he post on X? He said that NYC is the clearest warning yet of what happens to a society when it fails to control migration. And Mark Pocan wrote back, racist, and then he swore, go back to 1930s Germany. Ryan, do you remember what happened in 1930s Germany to Jewish people? I don't.
No.
No, it doesn't ring a bell. We covered CNN Aaron's Burnett earlier. She had another crazy quote. She said there's a friendliness to Iranians who chant, quote, death to America. I remember, Dana, at one point being in Tehran years ago, and they're chanting death to America all around me, even as I say, oh, I'm an American reporting for CNN. And they were happy to speak to me. So those were two sort of jarring realities of the chant, and yet the friendliness have existed together. What is this woman talking about? They're chanting death to America, but they're being friendly doing it.
Well, they are doing it indirectly to us, so maybe we should go out and overeat and overdrink. I'm sorry, just going back to the last story.
Right, yeah, why not? All right, we'll do one more audio clip and one more quote. J.D. Vance.
Yes.
I empathize with the Americans who are exhausted after 25 years of foreign entanglements in the Middle East. I understand the concern, but the difference is that back then we had dumb presidents. And now we have Trump. I just think J.D. Vance is hilarious. A vice president that comes out and says things like that. And our last audio clip of the day, Trump. He thanked God for the missile strike. Play that audio.
And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our...
I didn't pay attention if CNN or he bashed him for that, for thanking God. But I think as a country, as a nation, we should start thanking God. We should start praying a lot more, because we are in some troubling times here. We have threats of, well, according to CNN, a nuclear war could be less than 3 months away, or it could be 3 years away. We have no idea. But there could be nuclear war. Jamal Bowman, there could be a race war. There could be an immigration war. There could be, if what's going on in New York City really happens, maybe we will see elected officials actually being arrested because of what they're doing with their public office. This illegal, we got to, is this for real or is this? Is it just a warning? Or is it a nuclear missile? I think it's just it's got to be just a test, right? Well, I don't know if anyone can still hear me, but excellent that the alert goes out on my closing message to pray more. So. Guess we'll just end the show here. For those of you wondering, we had an emergency alert. We don't know if we're even live anymore or if anyone can hear us. Maybe. What? What do you hear? I can hear myself.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
You don't hear the alert?
No, not anymore.
I still hear the alert.
Is it a good alert? Is it an alert like, hey, we caught like Osama bin Laden, or is it one of those alerts? No, it's just weather. Like HARP weather? Because it has been 90 degrees. Maybe HARP's doing something with the weather. Is that the alert? You know, we're going deep into conspiracy theories in this extra 30 seconds we have here. Oh, there's a storm. There is a storm coming. Am I live? So we had an emergency alert. There's a storm coming.
Yes.
Yeah, that happened right as I was saying pray more. And there is a storm coming.
What's the chances?
And there is a storm coming, and maybe it's already here. Maybe the storm has arrived. I have no idea. But this show will be here to report on everything going on. Because, you know, if we learned anything the last 5 years or today or every time I feel like you can't trust CNN. You can't trust MSNBC. You can't trust the legacy media. So where do you go? You go to shows like this and people like this. We give you, there's no agenda. You could put it on my gravestone. I don't have any ulterior motives. So until Monday, we'll see you at 3 to 4 p.m. Again, remember the time change. Thinking Logically, we are Monday. Until Monday, 3 to 4 p.m. I'm Joe Corsi signing off from Thinking Logically. See you then.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for